TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch and Sons, the world's favourite ham store. And the Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to sponsor TX Factor.
Welcome to TX Factor. My goodness me, here we are back where it all started for us because it's our 20th birthday. That's 20 episodes, not 20 years, as you can tell, because I'm still looking so young. But this is where we filmed that first episode. This is Poldhu on the south coast of Cornwall, overlooking Mounts Bay. I think the weather was a bit better last time we were here, and it's a historic location. That's why we did our first episode here, because it was from here that that letter S in Morse code winged its way across the Atlantic Ocean to be picked up by Senor Marconi and his assistant George Kemp in Newfoundland. Or was it? Well, as we covered in that episode, that's still open to a bit of debate. So we're back here to celebrate our new look and our 20th birthday, and to thank you very much for all your support for TX Factor so far, and I hope you enjoy this show. A bit later on, we're going to recap on 4 years of TX Factor in just 2 minutes.
Also in this episode, we conclude our coverage from Hamfest 2017 with updates on Yaesu's System Fusion Repeater, the DR2, a new handy gadget from Sotabeams, the BHI Parapro EQ20, and the very latest SDR hardware update from the folks at SDRplay. We even treated ourselves to a slice of the MLNS hog roast and hear how Martin himself sees the future of ham radio in the UK in 2018. Bob gives an overview on getting started with SDR. And if that's not enough, we have 2 prizes to win in our free-to-enter draw. From SDRplay, the newly launched RSP1A, and from the RSGB, the book that's selling like hotcakes, SDR. Both prizes bundled together for the lucky winner. All that, plus a celebratory look back over the past 20 episodes of TX Factor. But first, Bob fears he might be repeating himself.
We're on the Yaesu stand now with Carl Brazier, G7AFT, and we're here to find out about a new fusion repeater. Hang on a minute. Didn't we just do this? Oh no, it was 3 years ago last time we were doing this at Friedrichshafen, I think it was.
I believe
Carl.
it was, yes.
And that was when the DR1 came out.
Yep.
So now the DR2 fusion
Yes.
repeater, what's the difference?
Okay, so with the DR1, as you may know, it was linked via the internet with the wires system, which allowed repeaters all across the world to be linked together. And whilst that was good for some people, there are others that wanted to be able to have private networks of repeaters. Perhaps some people have a small network of repeaters in their locality, or maybe they want repeaters on different bands to be linked together. And this is where the DR2 is a useful repeater for that purpose.
To make this work then, it's got a LAN card built into it.
It certainly does, yes. So the LAN card has got a small Linux computer on board. It speaks TCP/IP, perfectly standard, so that means you can use a range of standard networking devices to link it together, whether that be sort of routers and high-powered Wi-Fi links and stuff like that. So perfectly normal, off-the-shelf networking equipment will allow you to connect them all together.
But it is still a fusion repeater. It still does the same sort of job as the DR1 in that it is both a digital repeater and an analog repeater?
Yes. So for the repeater on its own, analog user and a digital user could use it at the same time, and it will do the conversion between the analog and digital as before. The difference is we have a new feature. We're calling it System Fusion 2, and the FT70 handheld came with it as standard, and the existing System Fusion handhelds and mobile radios such as the FT1, FT2, 100 and 400 can have a firmware upgrade which has been released, which allows them to have a new function.
That new function gives you the ability then to choose which repeaters you're accessing.
So basically, once the user has upgraded his handheld or his mobile radio, he has something called a digital group ID function, which is a little bit like a CTCSS tone, but for digital use. It's a number that goes from 0 to 99. If your number is set to 0, it means everyone can hear everything. So whether you were using a repeater or whether you were using like a simplex QSO, basically everyone could hear everything that was going on. But if you change to a different ID, let's say to number 10, only people that had their DG ID or digital group ID set to 10 could actually communicate with each other. And it's that feature, as well as obviously restricting people that are on the simplex QSO, it allows them to control which repeater they come out of on a DR2 type repeater.
Right, so that's very different to the Wires X system where you kind of come out everywhere.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so essentially every single repeater on the network has its own ID, and then you can set a group which then contain the IDs of each repeater in that group. So if the user then sets his ID to that number, all the repeaters in that group will then respond and the people can then hear them. But an important distinction is that will only work in this case if you're talking in digital. Yeah. So the routing cannot work in analog, only in digital.
It's all in the setup then, which leads us nicely to this bit because we've got the colour display here and I can see on this one you've got it configured in particular groups, haven't you?
Yeah, so we'll have a look here. So it'll be a bit different to people that are used to the DR1. DR1 you just had RX and TX on your display because you only had a single receiver.
Right.
Now the DR2 is slightly different because it can receive on 2 frequencies and it can transmit on a choice of frequencies. It has basically 2 receiver inputs and 2 transmitter outputs. Okay, so to simplify it, we'll just look at one for now.
I was going to say, that starts to get really complicated, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's for other uses. But we'll simplify it. We'll look at the first receiver. Okay, so if we go into the setup of the main receiver and we go into the function option, here is the feature here. We've got here ID mode, DG ID or digital group ID. If we hold that down, you will see here, so the repeater has got an ID, I've given it number 1. The other repeater in this demonstration is number 2. Yeah. And then here we set up a group and I've given an ID of 10, but that could have equally been any number between 1 and 99. And I've given it a name. And if I hold this, like this, you will see for the group number 10, I have got repeater number 1 and repeater number 2 in that group. And this is why DGID is so important, because it's what controls the routing between repeaters.
It would seem then that the application of this for emergency use would really lend itself to that, wouldn't it? Because first of all, you've got the private nature of being able to control who accesses the repeater in that situation. Yes. But also you're not necessarily internet dependent, which the Wires X system is.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Because it uses standard TCP/IP networking, but does not need to connect to any servers on the internet. It just needs basically a peer-to-peer TCP/IP network. And so it's completely independent of the internet. You could use the internet, but you don't need to. So of course, for emergency use, that is a great feature to have.
How are we going to demonstrate this then, Carl?
Okay, so today we have a DR2, which is set to work on a UHF frequency. Okay. And it's connected via a network cable and an Ethernet switch to another DR2 repeater over here, which is operating on a VHF frequency. They're both set up to have a link of a DGID of 10. So in theory, if we transmit, say on this VHF handheld here.
Yeah, I've got the UHF one here, so give us a call.
G7AFT calling through. And you heard it on the...
Yeah, G7AFT, this is G0FGX portable.
There you go, so we've now done a crossband link.
And these are sat next to each other, but they could be many miles apart.
They could be hundreds of miles apart, yes.
Yeah, pretty straightforward to set up, actually.
Yes.
When you've got somebody like you to ask. And I suppose that's the important thing, that people can get all the help they need to configure these.
Yes. They can. But it is very simple, and in some ways simpler than the wire system. So.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's something we'd love to do some more on in depth in the future, particularly as more of these get rolled out, and see what the various applications might be. But for the moment, Carl, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the great things about Hamfest is the opportunity to meet some of the innovators in our hobby who are here with their products, and it's a chance to talk to them, find out about the products. And there's one that I've seen recently advertised I was dying to find out more about, being an IC7300 owner myself. So, hello, Richard Newstead from SOTA.
Nice to meet you.
Now, your SOTA Beams has come up with all kinds of wonderful innovations, including, of course, that Whisper Light, which we gave away. We had a lot of fun playing with that.
Brilliant.
And those have proved very popular, haven't they?
Oh, they have, yes. They're selling all over the world. Yeah, very, very popular product.
And the inspiration for coming up with that, like so many of your things, is you think as a ham about what other hams might want.
Well, actually, I'm more selfish than that. I think about what I might want. And I just hope that other hams might want the same thing. And often I'm right.
That applies to this little gadget here, which I was dying to find out more about as an IC7300 owner myself. And I saw this advertised, the ICOM Click to Tune. So what does this do? Okay,
well, it's designed for ICOM HF radios, and what it does is it emulates the automatic antenna tuner that you can connect externally to an ICOM. And what that does, what makes it useful, is that it changes mode automatically and sends out a low power carrier. And that's really handy if you've got a manual antenna tuner. And it's something that I came across because I bought an IC7300 and I've got an external antenna tuner, and it really, really annoyed me that the ICOM didn't have a low power tune facility. Of course, you can make a low power tune facility, you can change mode manually and you can change the power level manually, but I wanted something that I just wanted to press a button and get my low power carrier. So I came up with the Click to Tune, and having done that I thought, hang on a second, I can't be the only person that's got this problem. Looked on the internet and found I'm not the only person with this problem. So there it is, a product. So we sell it as a kit or a ready-built unit.
And these have proved very popular because you're selling these in the UK, but also in the US as well.
Yes, DX Engineering in the States take a number of our products, and they've taken a whole shed load of Click-to-Tunes.
That's it then. We now understand how the R&D works at SOTA Beams. It's all about Richard going, oh well, I need one of these.
Pretty much, sadly.
And making it.
Yes, it's as simple as that.
Brilliant. I'm with Graham from BHI. Graham, what have you got new to show us this year at Hamfest?
Good morning. Yes, we have a product called the ParaPro EQ20. It's a range of audio DSP and non-DSP amplifier units with a parametric equalizer. Because many amateurs have hearing loss, hearing impairment due to age, or just, that's just part and parcel of the hobby, we were always asked about how we could improve the audio. So about 2 years ago, we were discussing which way tone control, graphic, and it was told to us that the type of equalizer that hearing impaired people use, it's used in hearing aids, is this parametric equalizer.
It looks like there's not too many controls on it, Graham. It doesn't look too complicated on either version.
No, it's pretty straightforward. You have a separate volume control here. You have the bass and treble controls here that you would set so that you can hear. And then you've got the boost controls below each of the bass and treble, and so you can just adjust those to suit your ears, and it's pretty straightforward. So we've got two versions. We've got a version with DSP and one without. The one without DSP is purely a 20 watt, parametric equalizer amplifier, but that can be connected to existing BHI products. So we sort of have that in mind. We supply adapters for phono plugs, and it's got 3 separate inputs, 12 volts DC operation, so you can use your own power supply, or we can supply one with you. We've added Bluetooth on the input, so effectively you can actually turn the box turns into a Bluetooth speaker. Where that can be useful is, say you've had enough of amateur for a while, or there's no one on the bands, you can literally get your MP3 player out, your iPhone, and Bluetooth music through the box and listen. So it's got a few other strings to its bow.
Some innovative products from amateurs for the benefit of the whole amateur radio community. More from Hamfest later. We have a rag chew with Martin Lynch and further details of our free-to-enter draw.
To mark JVC Kenwood Corporation's 70th anniversary, Kenwood has produced a limited edition TS590 SG, the renowned HF to 50 MHz transceiver noted for its exceptional receive performance and ease of operation. This special black version with its unique serial number went on sale towards the end of 2017, with US availability limited to 230 units and 150 in Europe. Based on the current model, this special black version features a distinctive front panel, main dial and glass screen. It offers the highest levels of performance, versatility and quality, a reputation already established by the current model. We feel confident that this limited edition will more than satisfy the high expectations of our customers with an eye for elegant design. Remember, only 470 units of the special black TS590 SG are available worldwide, each with a special serial number applied to the rear panel. Martin Lynch and Sons has a very limited stock of this unique version available right now. For more information, click on the link today. Martin Lynch and Sons, the world's favourite ham store. I'm with John, G4ABQ from SDRplay, and John, software-defined radios have become really popular. A lot more amateurs getting into it, and it's now getting much cheaper to get into, isn't it?
That's right. That's a place that we've found that we've been able to take technology that was originally developed for the cellular industry back in the day when broadcast technology was needed, everything from long wave to L-band, TV, digital radio and so on, and taken that technology and applied it for the amateur market.
A lot of people go for the cheap dongle that they buy off eBay. Now, that's not a bad start,
That's a great way to start. In fact, we would recommend get hold of a cheap dongle, and then we make our software available, SDR120, which you see in the background here, which obviously is limited by the hardware that you get with a dongle that was really not designed for this purpose.
Doesn't have the filtering and all that
That's
kind
right.
of stuff.
What we've done is opened up the frequency range right down to 1 kilohertz, so you can do all your experimental LF work all the way up to 2 gigahertz. And we've put all the hardware in one box and added all the pre-selection filters necessary to stop a lot of the common problems that happen with the cheaper dongles, where you've got interfering signals causing intermod problems. And so also using the 12-bit technology of the analog to digital conversion in the chips, we get a much higher performance than the typical 8-bit dongle that you get for 10 or 20 pounds.
Interestingly, though, your SDRplay receivers aren't that expensive, are they? You sit very much in the mid-range.
That's right.
don't you?
We're at the sort of 150, 160 pound point. And for that, you're getting something that's on a par with the performance you get from a purpose-built communications receiver. And particularly given that there's always new amateur bands coming up or other interests like satellite image detection and new modes of operation, where you're already using a PC. And actually the PC's doing the heavy lifting. I mean, the clever stuff is in the software running on the PC, and the hardware, you really need to be good enough to allow you to do that.
And of course, you can use programs like virtual audio cable to route the audio into digital decoding or even DMR or fusion decoders. So there's a lot of applications that you can kind of plug this into.
And as time goes on, developers are adding more software that can actually process directly the phase and quadrature signal that comes out of the box, because the actual box itself is powered via the USB. So all you need is a USB cable at one end, providing power and providing the data into the PC. The other end is the antenna.
The most important part of the experience for the user, of course, is the software, isn't it?
Indeed.
So you must have put a great deal of work into developing
and in fact,
this.
the fun part of our job really is to try and mediate between all the conflicting care-abouts of our customers. So one of the amateur-friendly features we've added are for the various popular ham band, HF bands. You click on the band, and the settings for decimation and frequency span are exactly as per the band. So we go from like 7 megs to 7.3. If we click on, say, 10 meters, it goes from 28 through to 29.7.
So you've made
And
it a
it's
bit
higher
more
spectrum.
amateur friendly, being able to do that. I
Yes.
see you've even got an S meter there, you see. Now, I've
Yes.
not seen an S meter before.
So we've got a calibrated S meter, calibrated to the international standard,
Yeah.
as well as an absolute calibrated RF power levels. So, for example, the EMC guys who worry about all the RF pollution going on are actually able to measure absolute power levels out in the field. So we've got a power meter, we've got the spectrum display, as well as some amateur-friendly band features that we've added.
And one of the great things is you are a British company, and you may be a fairly small one at the moment. There's just 7 of you, but with an enormous amount of potential. And it's fantastic to see a product like this coming into the hobby that is manufactured entirely in the UK.
The RSPs are made in Peterborough. All the components are assembled there. Even the plastic boxes are made in Rutland, so that all the testing, engineering is done here in the UK. Well, it's been great to do that. After my background from semiconductors in great big global companies, to be doing something where you can feel and touch the product, that's what gives me a buzz, and that's what I've enjoyed doing, Bob.
Thanks, John. Looks like an exciting combination of SDR hardware and software. And we'll have another visit from John as he brings us news of an update to the SDRplay range later in the programme. And we visit Staines-upon-Thames to sample the delights of the world's favourite hog roast. And more details of 2 prizes you can win in our latest free-to-enter draw. And that's coming up next.
The Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to be a sponsor of TX Factor. The RSGB works to protect, promote and enhance the use, understanding and enjoyment of wireless communication within a constantly developing amateur radio environment. The RSGB's National Radio Centre, the NRC, is a world-class educational centre for radio communications technology. Based at Bletchley Park, the once top-secret home of the World War II codebreakers, the NRC's films and interactive displays profile both the history and the current technologies of wireless communications. Combined with GB3RS, the state-of-the-art amateur radio station, it's a fantastic opportunity to showcase amateur radio to 28,000 visitors each year. Radio amateurs can operate GB3RS if they take their license with them, and RSGB members have the benefit of free entry to Bletchley Park through a voucher downloadable from the RSGB website. See the RSGB website now for more information on how the Society can work for you.
It's early December 2017 and we've come back to experience another of Martin Lynch and Sons' famous hog roast and open days at Staines. We'll hear Martin's take on the world of amateur radio retailing, but first, no time for a hog burger. Let's get some carols under our belt.
Really make you think. So jingle bells, jingle all the way. Lynch's tills are jingling from now till Christmas Day. Oh! Kenwood's here, Ickham's there, Yessu's all around. Even SDRs like Flex and Elad all about.
We always have a catch-up every year, Martin, on how business is going and kind of the world of amateur radio. So have you seen much in the way of change over the last year?
Well, there's change every year so far as the manufacturers bring out new products, which is great. Yaesu and ICOM have brought out some fantastic, certainly ICOM have brought out their 7610, which everybody's been waiting for nearly a year, and finally, before the end of this year, we'll see it. Fingers crossed. The 8600, Yaesu with their new 7580 watt 2-meter C4FM mobile. SDR mainly, being approached by more and more small companies that I've never heard of.
That's an interesting thing, isn't it, these days, that we are seeing more and more people developing within SDR and other ideas, within amateur radio and small manufacturers.
Well, it's good because it's a bit like in the old, back in the 70s, we had lots of small British manufacturers, microwave modules and modular electronics used to make small amplifiers and small receivers, and that sort of all disappeared. And unless you were prepared to buy a big Yaesu icon or Kenwood, there wasn't a lot else to choose from. Now the doors have opened with SDR and the simplicity of design that's allowing small companies to bring out more products. SDRplay, I mean, where were they 2-3 years ago? They seem to have come out of nowhere and they're doing fantastic. Apache Labs, Flex, and all the smaller businesses. Expert Electronics are another Russian company, fantastic products based on computers and SDR around that computer. And that's interesting, and that's bringing out a lot more people to buy small products and kits and build and add to it. So almost like the homebrew flavour is coming back into amateur radio, which I think is great.
For you as a retailer, you've got to try and spot the trends and be ahead of them, because you need to have the stock when people start asking for
Well,
stuff.
yes, we do. That isn't easy, but I've been doing it a long time. Sometimes we get caught out. We recently came across an SDR QRP transceiver that was offered to me by a Chinese manufacturer. Looked very good. They sent us half a dozen samples that we paid for. We then found out that actually the Chinese had ripped off a UK amateur's design, which we didn't know. We found out, we publicised it. We then started getting criticism on Facebook and Twitter and say, why is Martin doing this? I looked into it further and they were dead right. I contacted the manufacturer or the designer, one-man band guy, a very, very nice fellow. And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know this. And he absolutely was fine with it. He'd realised I didn't do it intentionally. And I tried to do a deal with the guy. I said, look, if we sell them, we'll pay you a good royalty. But he was quite happy to continue selling kits, which I respected. So after a bit of a going over with the Chinese chap, they did the honourable thing, took them all back and gave us a full refund. So, which was good, but it's just a shame they didn't knock on his door first and say, can we do this? As it happens, they did a really good job mechanically of it. It was very good. It was slightly lacking in overall design and had faults, but that was a good product at a good price. But I don't want to get involved with that, especially as a British designer invented it in the first place. So you have to be careful.
Where do you think the hobby is going then in 2018? Putting your psychic hat on.
Well,
for a
putting
minute.
my psychic hat on, I think the main manufacturers, Yaesu, Icon and Kenwood, need to be wary of the onslaught of SDR. If everything goes little boxes and plug it into a computer, Yaesu, Icon and Kenwood have got a problem, because that really removes them. Fortunately, people still like decent looking equipment with knobs on, as I do. I sit in front of a computer all day long, and whilst I can see definitely the benefits of SDR, I still prefer to sit in front of a dedicated piece of kit. ICOM, of course, have gone a little bit further, and they've got SDR with a normal front panel on it, which a lot of people like. The IC7300 has been the best seller we've had for years, and it's been enormous. So I think we will see, I don't know of any new products coming out from Yaesu. I know Kenwood have got an exciting new product which they're looking at. Hopefully we might see it end of next year. That's good. That always keeps the interest going. But I hope that this market with SDR gives the small manufacturers more sales and more interest for customers.
Will the digital side of things settle down a bit? Because it's incredibly
volatile,
for an amateur,
isn't it?
and you don't know which way to go.
I
mean, a lot of people now, as it's getting cheaper, just get
it's
all
getting
free.
cheaper again because the Chinese are involved. DMR is very Chinese driven, very, very Chinese driven, and the prices get lower and lower and lower. It's usually the same radio with different front panels and different badges, and the aerial might be in a different place. But the problem with that is all the infighting between different brandmasters and goodness knows what else in it, and that does cause problems. But again, that's brought a lot of interest back up again, a bit like Wuxen did 8-9 years ago when we introduced it, and they brought out a dual band 2 and 4 metre handheld. Wuxen were on the map. Unfortunately, they've fallen behind in DMR, even though they have got some DMR products. But yeah, it's another extra item we can sell, which is good.
One thing that we're pretty sure of, it's never going to get boring, is it? There's always something happening.
Always something happening, and then that's exciting. It's exciting for my sales and engineering guys. When a new toy turns up, we're all over it. Oh, this is great. And then we liaise with the factories. Some of the Chinese factories are very, very good at listening to what we have to say to them. They'll modify and alter stuff which is written. They're really quick at it as well, very fast to respond. And they will listen to what you ask them. And that's great from a retailer point of view to persuade or encourage the manufacturer to modify it for the UK or European market. That's fun.
It's competition time now on TX Factor, and boy, have we got a good prize for you this time round. Actually, 2 good prizes, but let's talk about the first one first. And for that, here at the Martin Lynch Hog Roast, we're getting an update from John from SDRplay about something new that's just come out that you could win. So, John, you've got a brand new product on the market.
Yep, we've brought out the RSP1A. It's a complete redesign of the RSP1, which brings a lot of the features that were only available in the RSP2, which is our multi-antenna version with clock synchronization. We've brought some of the basic improvements and learning from the RSP2 and brought those down to the new entry-level product, the RSP1A.
So what are the main benefits then that we're going to get with this new version of the 1A?
So you've got extra frequency stability. We've also added a DAB notch filter, and we've increased the number of pre-selection filters to 11 from the original 8. And those all combine together with the ever improved techniques we're using in the filtering to give a better experience, better image rejection, all the way down to 1 kilohertz to 2 gigahertz.
That's pretty spectacular. So you've now launched that on the world, and we have the opportunity to give one away.
Indeed, and we're very much looking forward to doing that, and we have one already and waiting for that lucky winner.
Congratulations on your new arrival, and thanks very much for giving us the opportunity to give one away. So if you would like to win it, you know what to do. Get to the website now, txfactor.co.uk. Full details of the competition are there, and we'll tell you about our other prize a bit later. Earlier on, we were talking about how you could win yourself a brand new SDRplay RSP1A receiver, the latest iteration of that fabulous entry-level SDR receiver. But if you don't manage to win one, or if you fancy dipping your toes into the world of SDR very cheaply indeed, well, you can do it using one of these. Now, this looks like an ordinary USB stick, but it's actually, and I think a lot of people are familiar with these now, it's a DVB receiver or a DAB FM receiver on a USB stick. Now, normally you would just plug this into your computer, it would come with a set of drivers, it would install itself, and it would be ready to rock to do what it's supposed to do. If you want to use it as an SDR receiver, then you have to install some different drivers. So a lot of people have talked about having a lot of heartache setting these up. It's straightforward like everything else as long as you follow the instructions. Now, I know as radio amateurs what we like to do is try and do it, and then when it doesn't work, look at the instructions. That won't work with this. So there's a very good page, rtlsdr.com, and most of these dongles contain the RTL chip, and it gives you a complete guide on how to set this up, and importantly how to download the new drivers that you're going to need. And the hottest tip of all when you're doing this setup procedure is don't plug the device in until you've replaced the drivers, because if you do the device plug in first, it'll install the wrong drivers and you've got to overwrite them and it all becomes a nightmare. So if you follow the instructions here, it'll get you set up, and you can download for free also from the same site some great software, the RTL Sharp software. So we've done all the setting up in advance. So hopefully if I start the SDR receiver, I've got it tuned into a local radio station, it will just demonstrate itself playing normal FM. Look at that.
Something Bay, like Damer Bay sort of thing.
And it is even giving us the RDS information at the top there as well.
Yes, you are.
There, so we've got it working, picking up a local radio station, and it's also great for picking up amateur transmissions. I found it worked quite well on airband and on the marine band. And how about this? A really cheap way of getting into digital. So D-Star, Fusion and DMR. If you've got any repeaters in your area and you'd like to have a little listen in and get started on digital, well, from the same site that we downloaded our SDR Sharp software, you can also download some software called DSD, Digital Sound Decoder, which will actually do all that decoding in your PC and enable you to monitor some of the digital transmissions in your area using your SDR Sharp and your dongle. Now, one thing that you need to do, and I think this is good if you're getting into any kind of SDR on your computer, is to download a program called Virtual Audio Cable, which does what it says on the tin. It creates virtual audio cables within your computer, which is a way of routing audio between applications. For example, once we've set this up on our computer, we were able to select Virtual Audio Cable 1 as the output from our SDR radio and put that into DSD, which is our digital decoder, which is listening to Virtual Audio Cable 1, and then it is sending its decoded audio out via the speakers of the computer in the normal way. Sounds horribly complicated, but it's all explained if you check out Virtual Audio Cable online. So let's have a look and see what DSD looks like. So when we've got it opened up, there's a few screens opened up there, but just to show you what happens when you successfully get some, in this case, DMR to decode. The main one that tells us whether we're decoding anything is going to be here. And also this is telling us if there's any audio input. None at the moment because I haven't clicked the SDR Sharp into action. And I should point out as well that I haven't got any D-Star, DMR or Fusion repeaters in range of me here in darkest Cornwall. So we've tuned into a local taxi firm. So I'll keep the audio turned down because we're not supposed to listen to that, but it will prove the point that it does decode it. So if I start the old radio off there you go. You can see it starts decoding the data. You can see it's happening there because the screen starts to scroll. We can see that it's getting audio from the receiver there. And it's only data at the moment, but if somebody starts talking, we would hear it. So there we are. That is a great cheap way to have a bit of fun with SDR for a few quid to buy the dongle off eBay and the free software DSD and all the details of how to download the software and to get the whole thing working, you'll find at txfactor.co.uk in our show notes. Now, this is the thing about SDR. When you're first getting started in it, there is so much to learn and so much to find out, which is why this new book from the RSGB is absolutely brilliant, because this tells you everything you need to know about SDR. It even covers off stuff like the RTL dongle and every other kind of software-defined radio you can think about, as well as all the principles behind it and how it works. It really is a useful book, this. So whoever is lucky enough to win our SDRplay receiver is also going to get this book as well. And if you don't manage to win it, I would say if you're interested in SDR, this is a must-have addition to your bookshelf. And I think it's proved so popular already that the RSGB have had to reprint it once. And I don't think that'll be the first reprint of that they'll be doing. So if you want to win, go to txfactor.co.uk now and you can win that fantastic book and the SDRplay RSP1A in our free-to-enter draw. Well, that's almost it for this episode of TX Factor, and an historic one for us, and it's great to be back at this historic location where we filmed our very first episode. We would like to say a massive thank you to all of you for the support you've given us over those 4 years, and to those who visited txfactor.co.uk and made a donation via PayPal to help us keep making these programs. So from a very windswept Poldhu, it's goodbye from the whole team here on TX Factor, and let's go out with a few memories of all those many subjects we've covered over the last 4 years.
QRZ from Mike X-Ray Zero Sierra Sierra Whiskey calling QRZ, over.
No, all right. See you later. Sorry, Martin. CQ. This is Golf Zero, Foxtrot Golf X-Ray Mobile, Go-Kart Mobile. Golf Zero, Foxtrot Golf X-Ray Mobile, which way's Helston?
TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch and Sons, the world's favourite ham store. And the Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to sponsor TX Factor.